Today, we're unraveling the true story behind one of the most intriguing films of the early 2000s, Catch Me If You Can. The movie, directed by Steven Spielberg and released in 2002, stars Leonardo DiCaprio as the infamous con artist Frank Abagnale Jr. and Tom Hanks as the dedicated FBI agent hot on his trail. But how much of this thrilling tale is fact, and how much is Hollywood embellishment? Let's dive in and uncover the real story behind this captivating film. In his autobiography, Frank Abagnale Jr. opens with a bold statement. "I was a millionaire twice over and a half again before I was 21. I stole every nickel of it and blew the bulk of the bundle on fine threads, gourmet foods, luxurious lodgings, fantastic foxes, fine wheels, and other sensual goodies." This larger-than-life introduction sets the stage for an incredible tale of deception and adventure. Following the book's release in 1980, Spielberg secured the film rights, and after years in development, Catch Me If You Can hit theaters. Despite being considered one of Spielberg's underrated gems, the movie took some creative liberties. So, let's explore the true story behind Frank Abagnale's real-life exploits. Frank William Abagnale Jr. was born on April 27, 1948, in New Rochelle, New York. The film's portrayal of his early life differs in several key ways from reality. In truth, Abagnale's parents divorced when he was 14, not long before the film suggests. Contrary to the film's depiction, his father didn't endlessly pine for his ex-wife. Frank chose to live with his father after the split, during which time he began developing his knack for deception. At 15, Frank was already a tall, imposing figure who often passed for an adult. His father's connections allowed him to frequent upscale venues in New York City, where he observed the habits of influential people. It was here that Frank honed his skills in charm and style, setting the stage for his future cons. By the time he was 16, Frank was experimenting with small-time scams and developing his criminal techniques. In the film, Frank's relationship with his father is portrayed as more central and emotional. However, the real story is more complex. At 16, Frank left home abruptly with just $200 to his name and never returned to his parents. He headed to New York City, where he began his life of crime in earnest. Once in New York, Frank started forging checks and assumed various identities to support himself. Over the next few years, he impersonated an airline pilot, a doctor, a professor, and a lawyer, among others. He pulled off these deceptions using forged credentials and his quick wit. During this period, he cashed about $2.5 million in fraudulent checks across the US and 26 other countries. One of Frank's most famous cons involved posing as a Pan Am pilot to secure free flights. In reality, he did learn about the airline industry from Pan Am personnel and even managed to acquire an authentic uniform. By the age of 19, he had flown to 26 countries and travelled around 1 million miles, all on someone else's dime. Frank's adventures took a turn when he was apprehended in Miami. However, using his charisma and connections with real airline personnel, he managed to talk his way out of trouble. He then laid low in Atlanta, where he convinced a local doctor he was a burned-out pediatrician. This led to him temporarily overseeing medical interns, despite his complete lack of medical training. The film introduces Brenda Strong, a nurse played by Amy Adams. In reality, this character is a composite of several women from Frank's life, including a flight attendant he dated. The engagement portrayed in the film never happened. Frank did later fall in love with someone else, but their relationship ended when she turned him into the authorities. Frank moved to Louisiana next, where he continued his deception by convincing a lawyer he had a Harvard law degree. He passed the bar exam with minimal study and worked as a legal assistant until a Harvard grad on staff threatened to expose him. After this, Frank tried his hand at teaching sociology at Brigham Young University using forged credentials. The film depicts a dramatic final con where Frank recruits flight attendants for Pan Am and takes them on a European tour, pocketing $300,000 in the process. In reality, this scam was even more elaborate, involving actual Pan Am funds and checks. At 20, Frank attempted to settle down under a new identity in Montpellier, France, pretending to be a screenwriter, but the FBI was closing in. While the film shows Tom Hanks' character capturing Frank dramatically, the real capture involved French police acting on a tip from a former girlfriend. Ironically, Frank made a cameo in the film's arrest scene as a French police officer. One of the film's most thrilling scenes shows Frank escaping custody on a plane, but in reality, his most remarkable escape occurred in prison. Frank convinced guards he was an inspector by using forged FBI business cards. He managed to escape again, only to be recaptured a month later in New York. After pleading guilty to his crimes, Frank was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. He was released early on the condition that he assisted the FBI with their cases. Frank used his expertise to help prevent fraud, and later founded Abagnale and Associates, a secure document consulting company. He even married and had 3 sons, one of whom became an FBI agent, a source of great pride for Frank. In summary, well, catch me. If you can capture the excitement of Frank Abagnale's life, the film does take creative liberties for dramatic effect. The real Frank Abagnale's story is even more astonishing, showing his incredible skill as a con artist and his eventual turn to helping others. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the true story behind Catch Me, if you can subscribe. See you in the next video.